Something Came From Baltimore is a free podcast. This week on Something Came From Baltimore, we are interviewing the bassist of the Yellowjackets, Dane Alderson. The Yellowjackets legacy, 43 years in the business, 25 albums, 17 Grammy nominations, and 2 wins. Welcome to Something Came From Baltimore. My name is Tom Gouker, and I will be your host today. Something Came From Baltimore is a jazz, blues, R&B podcast and radio show, and it's not really about Baltimore. In fact, this week via Zoom, we are chatting with the bassist Dane Alderson of the legendary jazz fusion band, the Yellowjackets. We are talking about the new album. It just came out. It's called Parallel Motion, which is a gritty, a little jammy recording that is getting road tested as we speak. The band will be at the Blues Alley in DC, September 30th to October 2nd. And before we get into that interview, let's listen to a sample of the lead-off track from Parallel Motion. It's called Intrigue. Dane Alderson, welcome to Something Came From Baltimore.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tom. Thanks for having me.
So as you're the younger person in the group, you've been there for about 7 years. Do you have to do all the interviews that they force someone you? Do you have to move all the equipment? Do you have to set up and tear down?
Yeah, they squeeze out of me whatever they can. No, I'm always more than happy and so excited whenever I get an invitation to have an interview to talk about this band and talk about how amazing it's been. And the guys have, like myself as well, but the guys have very busy lives. 3 of them teach at USC full-time. Actually, 2 now. Russell Ferrante just retired from USC. So Bob and Will have a pretty heavy schedule most of the time. And we just got back from a big tour, and they're just getting back into school and everything right now. And yeah, but man, I'm always more than happy to engage with interviews and chat with the public. And yeah.
My next question is that, the band has been together for 43 years. So there's a lot of legacy. And I feel like, does that weight you down at all to make sure that, that you understand the history and then the legacy that's attached to it?
Man, absolutely. It weighs on me a little bit. I mean, not a performance goes by with this band where I'm not standing up on stage and I just have this moment where I go, oh my goodness, I can't believe where I am. I can't believe who I'm sharing the stage with. Mm-hmm. And I'm performing to people who have been listening to the band longer than I've been alive for. So it's they're incredible legacy. I'm so grateful and honored to have been passed the baton and to keep the band rolling. And it weighs on me sometimes, but Bob, Russ, and Will are 3 of the loveliest fellas, and since day one they've been so warm and welcoming, and they made me feel right at home from the very beginning. So they're 3 absolute champions, and I love them to death.
You're a bass player, and you're doing more or less electric bass through this. Is there any bass player that you would say is one of your favorite heroes at this point?
Oh my goodness. At this point, it's a really tough question. There are so many amazing bass players that have influenced me throughout my career. I started out on drums. My dad, Rick, he's a drummer, and he taught me the drums from the age of 2, pretty much. And I was about 13 years old, and my stepbrother, Cameron, at the time, he was right into the Chili Peppers. I heard two albums, one called Blood Sugar, Sex Magic, and One Hot Minute, and they just changed my life. And I heard what Flea was doing on the bass, and I wanted to do that, and it was a pretty quick transition. And I was really lucky that I had that drumming background. As we know, drums and bass, we work together, and we take care of the groove, and we lock in with each other. So I begged my parents for a bass guitar, and they picked me up a cheapie that they found at a local garage sale, and I started slapping. Was right into the Chili Peppers. Just wanted to learn how Flea was doing all that. But with the slapping, I took to it pretty quickly. I basically thought of my thumb as the kick drum, and whichever finger I'm plucking with, there's a snare drum. And I just started practicing drum rudiments on the bass. And so I took to it pretty quickly. But yeah, I was 13, and I'm 39 now. So I've been at it for a little while.
You have listed the MIDI sequence, MIDI sequencing, and that's pre-programmed music attached to it, or are you able to live alter the sounds of things that's going on? It's weird. Like, I just assumed every band had this, but it was weird that it was matched to your name. So I thought, this is one of your responsibilities or something.
Oh, right. You know what? It was specifically had to do with one of my compositions. There's a song called Onyx Manor.
No, I said, can we use Onyx Manor as an example? Because it seems that you did use it. Go ahead. Can we talk? Let's go ahead and talk about that song and how you used it, because I'll play it.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be great. So basically, I put a demo together for the guys, and at home I put together like a MIDI synth bass line, and and I have a little MIDI keyboard, so I punched out a drum beat, and I also, like, very slowly, because I'm a terrible keyboardist, I just put the chords in slowly, and then eventually put everything together, and I sent it off to the guys, and they really dug it. And once we got in the studio and we did a few takes, because we did that song to a click track in particular, and the guys just said, man, why don't we use some of these MIDI tracks that you've already put together? Because they were starting to sound like a real part of the tune, And the guys very generously offered and said, yeah, let's keep the synth bass in, and you hear a little bit of organ in there as well. That's me on the MIDI keyboard, and that piece in particular, it's pretty structured and fairly, how do I put this, like, there's a pretty solid arrangement, like the drum pattern at the beginning and at the end. That was a fairly specific pattern that I wanted to kind of lock in with the chords and with the bass line. And so that song is pretty well arranged. Whereas just really quickly, there's another tune I contributed called Early, which is much looser. It has a much jammier vibe. I brought that tune in with the fellas and just said, guys, do with this whatever you like. Let's start this from scratch here in the studio and see what happens. But whereas Onyx was a little bit more arranged.
I find this to be a lot looser, a lot more jammier, and in some ways, it's a nice way to end the album.
Man, thank you so much, Tom. Yeah, you know what? I've had the idea and the concept for that tune on my laptop, I think, since 2009. And I tried it out once or twice with various ensembles over the years. But I brought it in with the Jackets, and they really just captured the groove and the feel that I was looking for on that. And I mean, man, it's really it's a party tune. That's basically how I like to describe that, and Onyx as well. I mean, I just wanted to focus solely like the groove up front and foremost, just that bass and drums really locking in that groove. Early in particular, some pretty simple melodies over the top, but the groove was my main, that's what I really wanted to establish, was just locking in with that groove.
You're cracking me up, because I wrote in here, did you ever just say, man, let's just crank this bass up to really thick, like, volume, because you're doing so much work on it. Like, you're doing a lot of stuff, and I was like, it's too low in the mix. It needed to be up higher.
Right. Yeah, man. We actually with Onyx and Early, we mixed the drums and bass a little differently to how we've done on previous Jackets albums, especially on Early, because it has more of a kind of like an R&B kind of flavor to it. I did want the bass to be pretty heavy and the drums to have just to be a little grittier. If you can hear slightly, there's even just a little bit of crunch and distortion on the drum kit. We just wanted something a little gritty and dirty. Yeah, so we took a risk and mixed them a little differently to how we've done the other Jackets tunes.
That's funny. Okay, we had two more songs to talk about. We'll let you go. The album's called Parallel Motion, and that is a great song too. We wanted to play a sample of that.
Man, it's also one of my favorite tunes as well. It has this real mysterious kind of feel about it. And again, like, dare I say, with all of these tunes, they all purely came to life in the studio. We hadn't performed any of these songs live. We had three very short rehearsals where we were kind of topping and tailing this music, and we were kind of thinking, all right, we're going to go in there and we'll see what happens. But so what you're hearing with all these tunes, it is like the bare bones and just about as fresh as these tunes will get. And Parallel Motion, it was a real joy to record. I love the end when the bass starts to go into more of a 16th note kind of groove, and the build over Bob's solo. And I mean, Bob just writes these amazing melodies that him and Russ play in unison. And Parallel Motion's one of my favorite tracks also from the album, for sure.
Oh, you are awesome. You are a great interview. I'm listening to you. I'm like, I could use all this. There's not one thing I want to throw away. So
Oh
that's great.
man, it's a pleasure talking to you, Tom. I really appreciate it.
I got one more for you, which is it's Gene Baylord and Marcus Baylord, who used to be a drummer for Yellowjackets, are now in the Baylord Project. And she had a big hit way back in the day with Hey Mr. DJ with Johnny. The song is called If You Believe.
She has such a beautiful, amazing voice, and she really brought that tune to life. I've only met Jean very briefly once, maybe I think it was probably like 6 or 7 years ago when I first joined the band. Mm-hmm. And because she recorded her part remotely. It's something different compared to all of the other tunes on there. And it's a slight detachment from like the theme and the vibe of the album. But I think it works really well. And I think it's just a beautiful addition to the album, just to have something a little different on there. And I was able to use I have a brand new fretless bass that was built for me by a company called New York Bass Works. A fella named David Siegel builds all his own instruments. And so I was able to really engage on that fretless on that track. And I had so much fun doing that.
If you believe in the power of love to mend and heal a troubled world, when darkness falls and hope is gone, you'll find the strength to carry on.
Great. Thank you. You are a joy to interview. I appreciate it. I feel like I have zero editing to do, other than myself. I screw up. But you're phenomenal. But I thank you very much for joining me today on Something Came from Baltimore.
Well, Tom, it's an absolute pleasure and a real joy to talk to you, and hope to get to see you soon.
I hope you enjoyed the interview today with Dane Alderson. The show is over. We want you to have a great day.
Something came from Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.